This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
You are now tuned in to Crunch You are now tuned
All right, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome to another episode of Trench Talk. I am your host, Farron Dozier, retired Army Sergeant First Class. Always blessed to be a part of MB Radio, place where they're giving veterans a voice. It is very important for us as veterans to have the space where we can come and share and express ourselves and invite others to talk about themselves and share themselves. So again, I'm very appreciative of being a part of this network of MB Radio. Make sure you go to mbradio.us or go get the app. Yes, they have an app. You can catch us, the schedules, other podcasts on this platform there as well. We're also on Roku TV. So if you got us catch us streaming on Roku TV, if you want to watch that over there, you can as well. And also on all the streaming platforms from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram, Twitch. You can catch us over there as well. So today, have a very important show for you as always with the Trench Talk conversation. I love to have other veterans and our community come on and just share about what they're up to around their what's next, right? And discovering your what's next to me is so important when we talk about mental toughness and mental health. For some of us, right? I can just speak for myself as my identity being trapped in that camouflage for 24 years and then trying to figure out when that career came to an end, who was I? And I was lost. And so talking to some friends today about what we miss as veterans is the camaraderie for sure. Maybe not all the craziness that goes with it, but definitely the camaraderie. And so this conversation, Trench Talk, is my own personal therapy where I get to come and stay connected to our veteran community. I felt that was important for me years ago, 14 years now. And to be consistent and have these type of shows where veterans can come and share their stories, life before, during, and after service, right? And even with the label veteran, I ultimately want you that as a listener, whether you served in the military or not, or a family member, that we're all people first. We're all human beings, right? And so the identity that we have as being a veteran or serving in the military of whatever branch, there's a level of pride that comes with that. right? And you need to have a level of pride. The pride, because there's self-love and self-esteem and self-worth, but sometimes out of context that gets corrupted, especially when you have that pride against other people or even towards yourself. That self-pride is also can be really harmful to us, because again, then my identity is trapped in that title or that rank. And so we lose that human connection with one another. So very important conversations here. You're going to hear a lot of different just life talks, sharing experiences. And that's pretty much what this platform is about for my Trench Talk edition. You can catch me on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM and 1050 AM, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. There I do more of a variety show mixed with some sports talk as well. Also Saturdays at 7 p.m. On Lit Live. That's Dash Radio, used to be Dash Radio. So Lit Live is the platform. GH3 is God's House of Hip Hop. And that's my Christian hip hop talk show there. It airs on Saturdays at 7 and then Sundays at 5 p.m. And I just did season 3 with Jessica on Beyond 2D. That's where we have conversations about life experiences, particular talks. Like yesterday's talk was what is love? And so we broke down the definition of love, and we broke down different conversations around what are we saying when we say I love you, and have these love experiences. And so that was an episode there. So you can go to Beyond 2D on YouTube and search that, the Breakthrough Show Network. You can go there and find that conversation as well. So again, thanks for listening in. We're gonna go and play some PSAs and then come right back, because I have one of my guests here ready to go. All right, this is the Farron Dozier Show, Trench Talk Edition, right here on MBR platforms.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Trench Talk US, the special edition of the Farron Dozier Show. Again, that PSA right there is brought to you by Calmago. It was such a blessing to meet that company, helping them share that message, because a lot of veterans, we don't want to deal with medication. I know I was one of those that I tried that stuff and I just did not like the feeling of those drugs. And so, sometimes it's just a matter of how we breathe, right? And you can calm yourself down with those breathing techniques. And so that device is helpful. Again, it is dedicated to veterans. However, that's a human being conversation as well. So a lot of us human beings deal with stress and anxiety and panic attacks. And so it's not just limited to veterans. So if you want information about that, you can definitely go there and check out the Calmago device. All right, so my first guest, I was introduced to him. I appreciate Michael. He has been a blessing in my life. I have an ABA team called the Ventura County Orcas, and we were searching for a home this first season launching, and we were able to be in communication with the Y and Van Nuys, Meta from the Lakers. He has his X versus X basketball team that they play out of that gym. The floor is redone. It's got the big Clippers logo, the official 3-point line. And so Michael, reached out to me and was like, hey, if you need any support. And, I happened to just reach out to him one night after my tryouts, driving home. And I'm like, man, I need a facility. And he was like, send me information, give me a budget. And they said he talked to Meta, and Meta was like, yeah, let him have the gym. And so we played all of our home games. We got one more game at home next week. So I appreciate him. And then I've been sharing with him, my view of basketball is not just the highlights and the scores, and it's more of that mental toughness, that mental health aspect of it. And so he's like, "Oh, I got somebody maybe you should talk to and meet." And come to find out, my guy here is a veteran as well. And so if you remember the episodes when I first came to NBR, I interviewed actually quite a few Coast Guard veterans. And so here we are today with my guest, Anthony. How you doing?
Awesome, Farron. How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Thanks for taking time out today to hang out.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, I'm just what you're doing. Let me just give it back to you first. I mean, all the stuff you're doing, I don't know how you actually sleep, but what you're doing, man, is amazing. And the aspect of the mental aspect of the game is what I love. So where as soon as Michael told me about you, I was like, okay, that's just a match made in heaven. So we have to
Right. And it was, our conversations are very similar. And so I was grateful again for Michael to introduce us. So this is more about you than it is me. So introduce yourself, give him a little bit of background, but don't give it all away, and then we'll get started.
Well, it sounds like a plan. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Anytime we can get the word out about what we're trying to do, be it with kids or about being a veteran and things of that nature, it's fantastic. So I commend you again for what you're doing. It's awesome.
Yeah,
as for me, I've spent 4 active years in the Coast Guard from 94 to 98.
Okay.
I was stationed actually at Governor's Island here in New York.
Oh.
And I was actually the last unit to leave before they closed the island down for the military. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was awesome. And, I always tell people, like, I loved it, but I would have preferred to do 4 years of boot camp as opposed to doing the field work, because that, I'll tell you, when you think back about things, principles that I developed and the mindset I developed about working with kids and teaching and things of that nature, it all comes back to what I dealt with boot camp and in the military. So that in and of itself set me up for life. Fast forward a little bit, I've been doing training of basketball players for probably the last 25 years or so. I deal mostly, like you're talking about, with the mental aspect and the speed, agility, and quickness aspect. The skills are the skills. They take care of themselves. You can train skills. But the bottom line is, like, whenever I do clinics or anything of that nature, I always do it mind, body, and then skills, because you can have the best skills in the world and you can be the best in the world. But if this isn't right,
let me tell you. All right, so let's talk about who was Anthony growing up as a young guy in the neighborhood. Who's Anthony? Who's that?
I don't know if I want to go back there, but I mean, I had an average childhood growing up. Didn't have the best of the best, but didn't really lack for much. If that makes sense.
For sure.
But what I learned is that when you're in that middle position where you don't have the best, but you don't have the worst, it's kind of like where average is.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I've always heard this great quote I heard years ago. It says, I don't want to be average, because average is the best of the worst and the worst of the best.
Oh,
I was like, that blew my mind.
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough to digest if you.
Yeah, it's like you're not stable. The worst of the best, but you're the best of the worst. This is like, eagles don't fly with pigeons type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you want to do?
Yeah,
and you have to figure that out. But I grew up normal, regular, nothing. I went into the military after like about a year and a half of college.
Okay, wait, don't go that far yet. Don't go that far yet. I'm gonna guide you. Yeah. I like how you said that, right? Because again, as children growing up, like in our environment, we see how other people live, what other people have, and for some reason, it's like over there is always better than over here, and so you never really get a chance to enjoy where you are. Just and this is mind work. This is mental stuff that we do with the brain, that you sometimes get stuck in that position. As you're saying, you're right in the middle and you feel like you should have this life, or your parents should have provided you this life, but you don't realize that till you're older when you get your own life together. You're like, well, wait a minute, I don't think I had it too bad. But in the moments as a child, we don't recognize that, and that hurts us at some time. So
It absolutely
Can you
does.
speak to that at all?
Well, I mean, the perfect example is my son. Like, you know, my son, my wife and I adopted my son, took him home from the hospital when he was
Oh,
on, 2
wow.
days after he was born. It
Oh,
was an
wow.
amazing story. We have an open adoption with the birth mother. It's wonderful. We see it 2, 3, 4 times a year. He knows
Yeah.
everything. It was always open, so it was beautiful. But for him, it's like, you know, like, oh, well, we don't have this in the house right now. It's like, well, can't we just order it? Can't you just buy it? And it's like, dude, I think that's not the way it works. We don't just do all the time. But, you know, meanwhile, growing up, it was like, well, we have to figure this out, or we have to figure that out. So
Yeah.
I call it, like with sports, is playing present, being in the moment.
Exactly.
You know, for me, the two of the worst emotions, the two of the useless emotions, I should say, is guilt and worry. Because you can't change what happened, and you can't change what didn't happen.
Yeah.
So be here, be with us right now. You know, I try and stress that to the kids that I coach now.
Man, that's I love that you was able to take on that child at whatever, and we'll get into that a little bit. But that's, everybody can't do that. Everybody can't be about that life, right?
Nope.
And so I appreciate you for that. In your environment growing up, mom and dad, is that off limits? Can we talk about, like,
No, of course, no, absolutely not.
we know that, you know, our parents are our two most important people in our life. And for me, I've learned that sometimes there's a break in communication. And so again, the perception of that child. But how would you say, you know, you and your pops was? Let's go with pops first.
I mean, just, you know, normal, average, nothing crazy, nothing, you know, never was, you know, abused or anything like that. Never, you know, was hit or anything like that. But the threat was there.
Yeah.
You know, the words were there. So it was always like, whoa, I gotta back up. You know, so, but yeah, I mean, we had a good relationship. He passed away a few years ago. And yeah, we had a good relationship. It wasn't, you know, it just was average. It wasn't, nothing really stuck out. I mean, the one thing I can tell you though, that always stuck with me is when I was in the military and when I was on Governor's Island, it was probably after about a month or so after boot camp, and I was there, and and something had happened. I think it was like a bad storm or something like that, where we couldn't leave the island because the only way to and from Governor's Island was through a ferry.
Okay.
And, you know, I remember he came onto the island, whatever, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm crying. I'm like, I have to quit. I have to quit. So he's like, what are you? You can't quit. Oh, this isn't a job. You made a commitment. You know, you have to stick it out. It's like, this is not it's not even an option.
Yeah.
You know, so, and what I find myself with my son saying that, the perfect example is how that message transferred to me, to my son, is that he just started playing tackle football. So in July, they were doing all the drills and running through in shorts and t-shirts. He loved it and this and that. And it was great. Then they put the pads on. And that first hit he took with the pads on, he comes running off the field. I see the coaches talk to me. They're like, go ahead, you know, and it's his best friend's father who's the coach, so we have a good relationship. Yeah. He's like, I can't feel my arm. I can't feel it. I'm like, relax. I told you this was gonna happen. I warned him, like, the first hit will make you feel something. Like, I can't. And I'm like, relax. I was like, you can't. That word doesn't exist on a house. Can't, and try. We can get to that later. But like, that word, it doesn't exist. Like, and he starts getting a little angry with me, and I had to kind of be a little bit a little stern. I'm like, go get back on the bench right now. I was like, it's not an option. You know, so he couldn't move his left hand. He's like, I want to go home. I'm like, that's not happening. You made a commitment. No, let's go. So the coaches come over to him, and they're like, oh, Parker. He's like, oh, it hurts. He goes, well, just come out, you know, put your helmet back on, you know, just listen to what's going on. So miraculously, his arm started moving, and he started working his helmet back on.
Yeah.
He got in, and they were doing, I forget the name of the drill, but it's like where they all line up in a circle, and they go one-on-one. They try to push each other to the ground, like to show them. So first couple he didn't want to do, and then he won like the last two. They're like, come on, Parker. Like, so I was like, and afterwards we're walking back. I'm like, so we're quitting, right? He goes, no, I'm good. All right. So the message got through. So that's kind of like how I translated what I was taught at mindset to him now. So it was actually been a very nice way back.
You know, I appreciate that story because on my sports show, I interview football players, and we talk about, my question to the football player is, what's your fourth down? Like, that's my mental talk. Like, what is your fourth down? And did you ever have that one hit, you know, that questioned your football career? And there's a story similar to your son where they've had that first hit was like, I don't think this is for me, but they do push through that sometimes. And so again, thank you so much for that. All right. Moms, let's talk about moms real quick.
And he got a little bit stronger throughout the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk
my
about
mother
mom.
was a different story. My mother was very independent when I was growing up.
Okay.
She didn't need anything from anybody. She didn't need help from anybody. She did everything. And then when I was 9 years old, she had an aneurysm in her head that burst.
Oh, wow.
So she was in the hospital for almost 3 months. She recovered fully. They took care of it, but she had what they call short-term memory loss.
Oh,
So
wow.
she would remember things like, remember when you were 4 years old and you did this? And I'm like, no. But then I would be living in the house and I'd go upstairs. I'm like, I'm going to, Vinny's house, and then come back downstairs. Like, where are you going? So she didn't remember the short term.
Wow.
One story is that one Christmas I woke up in the middle of the night once I knew, the whole scenario, and she's opening up all of her gifts and looking. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? She goes, I'm just looking at the gifts. She goes, I'm not going to remember what they are anyway, so I'm just going to rewrap. I'm like, all right.
Wow.
She had to learn how to do everything again. She had to learn how to walk again and drive again. And I have memories of throwing rolled up socks back and forth for her to get her mobility back and her movement patterns. And it was different. But she was a different person than she was prior to her getting sick.
Yeah.
So she needed a lot of help, and she was very prideful, I should say. And she didn't like that. So there was a lot of, I don't need help. Like, yes, you do. But a lot of people, when they get in that mode, they don't want to admit that.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
And that's not just with her. That's with all people. So
that's with life. And I appreciate you saying that because that is sometimes we think that we're weak because we need help. We look bad because we need help. And really, we suffer in silence if you don't get that kind of support. But for you,
Les Brown had a great quote on that. He said, what did he say? He said, oh shoot, now I forgot the quote. I forgot the quote now, man. Oh, he says, ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong.
Oh,
he said, and don't stop asking until you get the help.
I could see that. Some conversations say that the son is hardwired to the mom and the daughter is hardwired to the dad, right? How helping your mom recover during that process? How did you feel seeing your mom in that condition?
It was tough. I'm not gonna lie. Because like I said, prior to her getting sick, she was like so independent and didn't need anything, and she'd be over me, like holding a wooden spoon, like do your homework, make sure you get it done. That's who she was. And to see her not be able to do that anymore, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But I was able to get through it, and it kind of made me a different person that I had I guess maybe that's where my helping and my mindset for wanting to help people comes from, because I knew I had to help her because I was her baby. I was the one. Like, we had a wonderful, no matter what I did, it would never be wrong. It'd never be wrong. No matter what I did, she's always there, and I think that helped me develop that mindset for helping. But yeah, I mean, that's really what it was with her.
Yeah. Now, did you have a fourth down or chasing hoop dreams? What was your sport back in the day?
Yeah, basketball was the sport. I loved basketball. I started playing probably when I was about maybe 9 or so.
Okay.
And I never played it at just to give you a little background of it. I played in high school. First, I played the freshman and sophomore year. Junior year, I was cut, but not because of my skill, but because the coach of my junior varsity team was I think he was 19 or 20, and he didn't like me, or he had his favorites.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, whatever. So I worked on my game. I was shooting jump shots left-handed when I'm a righty, and just working on my game the whole time. So I came back my senior year, and I won most improved player. And at the time, we played our team played against another team in the Brendan Byrne Arena in Jersey, where the Nets used to play.
Yeah.
And the best highlight of that was that I got to start at that game in the Meadowlands. So I was like,
wow.
I'm on a loudspeaker. I got 4 points. So it was awesome. But, I mean, that was kind of after that, I got better. As I got older, I got better, My friends and I, we go all around Manhattan playing, and we used to shut down courts. They'd be like, all right, the players are here. Come on, let's go. And like they'd stop games because me and my friends got there. And we always did well. And then my dream, I always said I'm gonna play, I want to play pro. But as you start to develop, you know, E.T., you ever hear of E.T., the hip hop preacher? He has a great post. He says, everybody wants to be a beast, but nobody wants to work for it.
Exactly.
And I'll be honest, I was definitely a product of that because I wanted it, but then I joined the Coast Guard, right? And I was like, oh, now I'm in, I'm great. And I even have to this day, I have the workout from the College of Staten Island when I had tried to go, I tried to play college for a little bit. I didn't like the team. I didn't like some of the players, so I wound up quitting. But the guys were like, you should be playing. You should play with us. And I have a thing that I printed out from a label from my Coast Guard. It says, you know, you can't hold me. I'm going pro. And I have that to this day. But, you know,
that's
things
legit.
happen. And, you know, but then, you know, after the Coast Guard came out and then got into the training.
No. Okay, wait.
I'm like, okay, I know. I'm learning.
Again, this is the Farron Dozier Show, Trench Talk edition. Anthony's here sharing his story. We're going to get into some of his military experience. But before we do, I want to play this public service announcement. This is around sickle cell trait. It is important, not just for, you know, the DNA aspect of having children, but for some people who have collapsed and died from sickle cell trait exertion throughout the dialysis. So this is more of a sports conversation with me as it relates to military as well. But I really believe it's important for people to know what genes they carry, because sickle cell trait is just one of 1,000 other types that can cause these kind of complications as far as athletes and military personnel. And so we're going to play this PSA and come right back to the Trench Talk episode right here with my guy, Anthony. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh,
too,
man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait, there's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on sickle cell trait prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org. All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show, Trench Talk edition. Again, thanks for listening in. Again, if you're out there and you want to get involved in MBR, make sure you go to mbradio.us and check out the website. This is a platform that's giving veterans a voice. I actually did an interview on here, I think it was in 2021, and fell in love with the network. That we kind of fell in love with each other, and they have been asking me to bring my shows over to their platform, and I was like, man, I got like 5 shows. It's like I'm gonna have to try to find guests all over. So it took me shoot from 2021 up until the beginning of 2024, where I decided to relaunch the Trench Talk episode and go full force. So again, I'm grateful for them to allow me to have my show here. Again, you can catch us on all social media platforms, Roku TV as well. And again, it's live on at 4 p.m. Pacific time right here every Wednesday. All right, so I'm gonna bring my guy Anthony back. I see our next guest is here, so we're gonna bring her on in a second. But I want to finish up with Anthony, man. So out of all the branches of military to choose or to pick from, what was the draw to the Coast Guard?
Well, actually, one of my friends and I, we were supposed to join together.
Oh, not that one.
Yeah, that one. And
where are they now? That's my question. Where are they now?
The way it worked out was I was ready to go, and he was ready to go. So we were getting ready to go at the same time. But I had a small hairline fracture in my ankle from when I was younger playing basketball. So I had to go through some more tests physically to make sure that I was okay to go. So he went probably about, I'd say, 6 months before I did, I think it was. He went in, and he wound up having to get out because he had an issue with his equilibrium. He had vertigo. So he wound up being discharged, and now he's an attorney and living in Las Vegas. So he's doing well. But yeah, so that was like kind of like the main draw. But then once I saw what it was about and everything, and then I just fell in love with being on the water and just being able to go, just get away from everything, like not have that hustle and bustle, of dealing with everything on a daily basis. It was kind of nice. So you have those nice nights on patrol where you're out in the water, you're looking around. So it's pretty cool. So that's pretty much the reason why.
What would you say like your most memorable experience is from being in the Coast Guard, if you have one?
Well, funny story is that it wasn't so much of what I did in the Coast Guard as far as the Coast Guard itself, like as far as the work. My chief, I had gotten a new chief, and he had come up from Florida, and I was working on the Coast Guard cut a wire out of Governor's Island. We were an ice breaking tug. Mm-hmm. So we were, the bottom was rounded. So he came up from Florida, and he had never been to Atlantic City. So he decided he wanted to go to Atlantic City. We're going to take the crew down there. We're more down there. Everything was great. I was like, all right, cool. But we wound up going into the Atlantic Ocean to go down there in a harbor tug that's rounded and designed for ice breaking, so it doesn't cut through the water. So he had me piloting the boat on the way down there. Right, 2 of the guys were down in the quarters. They were throwing up because the waves were bad. It was like 7 to 8.
I bet.
So I'm like, all right. So I'm piloting the boat. So I'm going up and boom, and pounding down in the water, and it was scary. So one time we go up, as we hit a wave broadsides us. Right, I go flying. If the door in the pilot house was open, I would have been thrown out. I hit the door. I ran outside. I can't do this. I can't do this. My chief comes down. He's like, get up here now. I need you up here. I'm like, all right. So I'm up there. He goes, we're not going to tip this boat. He goes, I'm going to tell you on the count of 3. He goes, you're going to turn as hard as you can starboard, because we were right near where we had a moor.
Oh,
I'm
no.
like, all right. He's like, 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, ah. And I turned, I steadied it. We got in. But the moral of the story is, on the way back, I understood how to do it. So we hit the same weather on the way back, but now I was riding the waves up and riding them down, up. So it was a nice smooth ride. I understood what I was doing. But at first, I had no idea. So it was crazy. I tell people that story, they're like, oh my goodness.
What was your job skill?
I was a fireman in the Coast Guard, the title of fireman. So like I would work in the engine room, working on the engines and things of that nature, like outside. But then once we got outside, everyone was all hands. I was doing everything. But that was the majority of the job, was working in the engine room, making sure everything was running properly, and cleaning out everything, making sure there wasn't any leaks or anything of that nature. So,
yeah, man. I just know for myself. I mean, I swim like a Chevy truck, like a rock hold like a rock. So I don't do water sports at all. I never learned how to relax. I never learned how to relax in the pool. It was always like I'm with a panic, right? And so I was just like, you know what? I'm not even worried about trying to learn how to swim. It's just no problem.
Yeah.
So
my wife is like a flotation device. She can. We went to Bermuda, I think it was, and we were in the ocean, and she's just like sitting there in the water as if she's sitting on a chair, just floating. And I'm like, and she's like, I want to go out there. I'm like, what are you crazy? I was like, no. I was like, and meanwhile, it's for me coming from a Coast Guard who's a decent swimmer, but I'm very, very buoyant.
Now, thank you. If as we talk about this mental aspect of sports, for me, it again the label of it as an athlete or a veteran, because it's a human being function for me. Out of your mental toughness, mental health conversation, like what got you into that part of the athletic sports?
Ironically, the military. When I was getting close to nearing the end of my enlistment, and you ever have someone that you work with or that you deal with on a daily basis that just their face pissed you off?
Oh yeah.
Like, I can't stand that person. I can't.
Yeah.
Right? We all have.
Yeah.
That was the supervisors that I was dealing with. So at that time, somehow, some way, I don't remember exactly how, but I was introduced to Tony Robbins, and I was listening to his programs, and I started to understand that you can have control of your feelings. Most people don't believe that, but the way it says, like, what I learned from him is that I tell people, and I bring this into my trainings now. It's like what I tell them: what's one thing that precedes every action you take is a thought, right? And what leads your situation, your actions. So and your actions become your feelings, right? So if you can control your thoughts and your actions control your feelings, then you can control your feelings.
Yeah.
So that's what got me started on that. So that was in like 97, 98.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And since then it's been I've been an advocate. I've done his whole program where I did a fire walk and I walked on hot coals barefoot, didn't get burned, and Les Brown and Jim Rohn and all these guys, I've seen them live, and it's just been mind-blowing. But it's all the things that keep just go in your mind, and they just stay there, and somehow, some way, they come out when you need them.
Yeah.
The mind's amazing. Use it.
Yeah. I didn't learn that until my transition out of the service and depression and all that stuff, and the personal development courses that I took showed us the being of, like, we studied the being of human being, right? And that you can have feelings and emotions and you don't have to become them. And when you said that, that was like, that's like one of the key components of those principles is who you're being, that you can be frustrated, or you could be upset, or you could be patience, and you could be calmness, and you get a choice in that. Like, you have power in that. But a lot of times the way that we think in their past experiences and the evidence is like, no, this is just the way it is. This is just the way I am. And we don't know that you actually do have some power in that conversation if you're willing to take a look and tell the truth to yourself first. Yeah,
that's the problem.
People
don't want to look inside. They don't want to look inside because they're scared of what they're going to see. And that's what I really, like you said, it's a human being. It's not a human doing. It's a human being.
That's my phrase. That we're human beings, not human doings. And so when you learn that and have challenged something outside of yourself up against these kind of principles, man, that freedom is on the other side of that. And so for the relatedness for me, as far as veterans and athletes, is why that I saw, like, I can't play basketball like I used to because of my health. But I went to that mental aspect, and if I went through that, I can only imagine what the next person could be dealing with, right? Because I know that my basketball identity started in the 8th grade, from going to a new school and trying to fit in and find my space with my peers. It was in that basketball arena, and so sometimes that we don't really get a chance to even recognize where it's coming from because of, you're put in this environment, in these conversations, and then you just feel like you're stuck. But the brain is so powerful. Like, the brain is powerful, and you can tap into those feelings and emotions and not become them. But it takes something to get to that point of the state of mind.
Oh, it absolutely does. I mean, that's the biggest thing with sports. Like, you know, a guy doesn't miss a free throw at the end of the game because he forgot how to shoot, or why did he miss? Because of his mind. What is he thinking about? What's he saying to himself when he's walking to that free throw line? Are you saying like, I got this? Or are you saying, man, I hope I don't miss. If I miss, we're going to lose the game. And, you know,
all
kids,
that.
That's why I love working with kids. Is it's you know, one of my favorite quotes again is like how it's better to create good habits now when you're young than try to break bad ones when you get older. You know, so if you can get them developing their mind now, that's when it works.
And that's the whole point that we're at, you know, in this conversation with you is like, if we can get that knowledge to that child early in age and have that heart return to that parent, man, that's half the battle. That's half the conversation, restoring that self-love, that self-worth, but getting it from the parents first, not something that's outside of your environment, like your peers or a gang or even a basketball team, because you still have to be whole and complete to give yourself away on that team. You know, and so I appreciate you for that. How can people find your information and learn more about what you're up to?
They can reach me on all the social media platforms. Is my name Anthony, ANTHONYM, as in Matthew, and then my last name Drago, DRAGO. That's on, you know, all the major platforms, TikTok and, you know, the X and whatever the other ones are, Instagram and all that.
All the name changes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
and
then also my website. My website's the same thing, AnthonyMDrago.com.
And I'm writing inspirational reads. I didn't want to be an author. I have an issue with identity crisis, so I don't want to be an author, right? But I do have some inspirational reads that I'm writing from my experiences, like little like 10, 11 pages. What inspired you to put your book together, to translate that over?
A friend of mine by the name of Kareem Nesbitt, he's a lifelong friend. He has his own, you know, not-for-profit and everything. And for years, I was listening to Tony Robbins, like I was telling you, and all these things. And he's like, yo, you'll stop reading everyone. You are the book. That was one of the biggest ones. And then the second one was when my son was born, when we adopted my son. I was literally feeding him in the middle of the night, writing the book on my cell phone in the notes, and then transferring it to Google Notes, and then and I was about to self-publish it once I had everything set up. And this guy I knew from like one of the social media sites, he's like, he was a publisher. He's like, he goes, well, you're done? I was like, yeah, I'm getting ready to self-publish. He's like, well, give me it. I want to take a look at it. I'm like, all right, whatever. That's fine. And I gave it to him. And then like about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, he calls me back. He's like, all right, because I want to move forward on this. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I want to publish it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I got the whole thing done. Didn't cost me a dime.
Wow.
You know, it was a wonderful situation. So it's available now on Amazon. It's called Go Prove Something. You know, a basketball guy,
the GPS,
PEDs, with PEDs standing for Performance Enhancing Decisions.
Ooh,
right. So that's what I tell everyone, all the big players, the big people in corporate America, they all use PEDs, Performance Enhancing Decisions.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it boils down to.
We got to talk some more later, man, because what I learned about decisions and choices, a lot of times we don't realize that when we make decisions based off of reasons and the decision doesn't turn out the way that we expect it to, it's not the decisions we made, it's the experience of the reason that we defend the reasons why, and then we feel like we can't make new decisions. And so that's such a mental aspect of it as well.
Yes,
so I appreciate you, Anthony, for hanging out with me, man. If you can hang out a little bit longer, please, you know, I'd like to bring you back shortly. I'm going to bring up our next guest.
Absolutely.
Have a conversation there. And I'd love for all three of us to have a conversation if you're good with that.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. This is the Farron Dozier Show, Trench Talk Edition. We'll be right back with our next guest.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes. WDCONS.
I just want you to know that most people think that African Americans, we're the only ones affected by that gene. Not so. We are number one because it combats malaria. So in our environment in Africa, in those parts of the world, when you got malaria, people got malaria back then 5,000-6,000 plus years ago, that they would die from malaria. However, the body created that defective gene, so we had an opportunity to survive malaria. However, Hispanics are number 2 with sickle cell trait and sickle cell, but you could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, Asian, because we're all blended for one, right? So we're all blended from our ancestors, all mixed together, but also each environment has their own red blood cell condition that combats malaria. So the Asian community has thalassemia, Mediterranean have thalassemia. Some Hispanics have the C trait. There's D trait. There's different inherited genes. It's 1,000 plus types. Sickle cell is just one of 1,000 plus that combat malaria. But however, if I have sickle cell trait and my partner, she has, like, say, C trait, and we don't know that we have these inherited genes, we can have a baby with a sickle cell disease type called SC disease, or sickle cell thalassemia disease, or sickle cell beta thalassemia, or sickle cell SD, or sickle cell in Monroe. So it's very important. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, there's an aspect of it for sports around dehydration and collapsing and sudden death, but there's also this conversation in life about knowing your status, because there is no universal cure for sickle cell. There are some cure-like conversations out there. Dr. Sebi cured sickle cell with his herbs, but you have to understand when we talk about cure, a level of healing. So if you have the proper nutrients and enzymes in your body, that when you have that crisis, it's not as hard on the body because you have what your body needs to repair itself, right? And so do we get that kind of enzymes and nutrients from foods today? Probably not completely. So there is no universal cure for sickle cell. There are stem cell transplants now, but they are very expensive. I have friends that are older with sickle cell that they choose not to have that work done because who are they going to be without sickle cell? Or they might have some other health issues if that sickle cell is taken away from their body. So there's no right or wrong conversation around sickle cell. My conversation is pay attention to your body and just make sure that you get tested, that you know your partner's status, so that people are informed and you get a choice. We were talking about decisions and choices before we went to this break. So a lot of families didn't have a choice in having that child with sickle cell disease because they wasn't aware that they carried that gene. And maybe if they had an opportunity to know that and make that choice versus it being a decision that now they have to have an abortion or have that child born. And so there's a whole nother mental health that comes with that, where parents feel some type of way about themselves for not knowing, right? So this mental health conversation it expands to life, as I said before. So I want to thank Anthony for chiming in, and we're going to go to our next guest. Shouts out to DeAndre. Let me have DeAndre come up here, man, first, man. What's happening, man?
What's going on, man? I'm watching Anthony's thing. I love it. I love the new show. For those out there who don't know, I'm the new Lenny, and he just new Squiggy. And so Lenny and Squiggy, man, we get ready to bring our next guest up, and I appreciate you, man, for reaching out to me. For this going to be a journey that God put together that no man tear down. It's going to be
been a long time coming. It's been a long time. You know what?
Yes, sir.
I look back in life, man, and this is where you got to have patience and consistency and persistence and perseverance, because I thought I was ready years ago to do this kind of stuff, but I wasn't ready back then, man. I was still growing and learning and developing and going through life. So sometimes you just have to have that level of patience and not wait till you have it all figured out to be about that life either, though, right? Because
that's true. Do your life and what you're trying to do, and that's why the mental, like you said, the mental aspect is good. And this is why our next guest coming on now is talking about that, what the financial part of it, of things that we know nothing of, and all the departments are going up with no mental health facilities in them, and teach people how to get wealth. And so we talked about it last night. And then we're gonna work on a new sporting show. We're gonna do some live stuff for April, so you guys gotta look out. We're gonna hit it. Bags of cameras gonna be the show.
Woo, people, man, that's
so get ready.
Into reality, man. So thank you. I'm gonna send you down real quick and bring up our guest. What do you want to say about our guest? What do you want to say about it?
A guest is somebody I met, about 4 years ago, and I went to a mutual friend. We met her, and she drove the big long truck, and we talked on the phone for 2 years before we really got.
I'm not asleep. Are you sleeping? No, I'm not asleep.
Yeah, and and we did our thing, and then boom, and there it was, and she just she a go getter, man. 5 foot, all 5 foot of her. She's 6'1", and 6'1" her mindset, but she's a phenomenal. I take a person of the people who could be a good city councilor if she ever ran for it, or mayor.
Oh, okay.
Put mouth on her a little shit, but she's a great financial person. And you guys can enjoy this next segment. If you're smart, you listen.
All right, man. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right, appreciate you. All right. Well, what's happening? You gotta unmute yourself real quick. Let me see. Yeah, you gotta unmute yourself. How are you?
I'm pretty good. And yourself?
I'm good. Thank you for hanging out today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we talked the other day, but introduce yourself to the listeners and we'll get started.
My name is LaKiss Pugh. I was a barber for many years, and then I became a truck driver, and I also was in the military. Mm-hmm. They didn't like me though. I went in at an old age. And my drill sergeant was not having that. He was, can't believe, what are you doing in here? You're 35 years old. You're an old woman. So that was that part of that. And then when I got out, I started truck driving, and I didn't know how much money it was in truck driving at that time. Then I was an at-home mom, and now I'm into development, land development, and wealth building and wealth education.
Okay. Let's go back. Who was LaKiss? Excuse me. LaKiss growing up. Who's LaKiss growing up?
Oh, that's interesting. Now that's a okay. So
we gotta go there.
So LaKiss growing up, her name was Lala, not LaKiss, and she was just a little feisty little girl who always liked people and was very happy, bubbly, and was always after the money and not no one else's money. Always after, well, what can I do to make some money? How can I do it? And actually, when I started, I was doing, I used to sell stuff at school in high school. And I was doing, what is that thing? It's called, that's when, what is the X and O's where you actually program the computer? That first came around. So I was actually programming.
Programming.
No, we were actually doing programming in high school at Palmdale High. Yeah. I was the only what they said. Look, I was the only chocolate in the white milk.
You know, growing up, as you're saying, I've heard that described as fly and buttermilk as a conversation as well. At a young age, looking back today, you know, how was that for you at that age? Were you aware of that, or?
I didn't know I was Black until I was 40.
Wow.
I didn't know it was a real difference until I was 40 years old. Yeah. Had no clue. Totally oblivious.
I'm just a girl, a lady.
I'm just a lady living in the world. There's no difference. I don't know what you're talking about, and how dare you have a conversation with me about color?
Wow.
Matter of fact, the lady, I'm gonna tell you, Candace Owens. When I look at her and listen to her, I know that she has not lived in the world long. I know that she's only 30. I did not know I was Black until I was 40.
Wow.
And that's a real true statement. So I don't know if I think separation is good, but then again, I think that it's not good. So it helps a lot, because I was able to have hard conversations that most people can't have. They get real emotional about them.
Right.
And those are the conversations that need to be had in order for us actually to have a cohesive human being or human experience with people. You got to be able to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
And
So
they're not easy.
I want to just make sure your audio is good. So I'm going to coach you real quick to make sure that your signal is good. At the very bottom of the computer, you see the settings button right there.
Actually, I'm actually on my phone.
Okay. I hear it as if you got a headphones or a microphone or speakers or somewhere around you too.
I do not.
Okay, we'll leave it then, because your voice changes a little bit. But it's fine.
Okay, sorry.
We'll make it work. One of the conversations around this mental health, as you shared with yourself, your own personal experience, is that emotional state of the inclusion and exclusion of it being emotional. And as you pointed to, race is one of the biggest ones outside of, I think, as a veteran, I tell people that, we're trained to objectify another human being into a terrorist and then kill terrorists. Right. But one day that brain's going to remember that was a human being, and then you have to live with that. Right. And so we're trained to be that kind of person. And now when you look in society and another perspective or perception of that, it goes back to black and white. I'm black, you're white. Then as I label you that color, I can talk to you like the world talks about white people or black people, or you wear glasses. So I can have a whole world conversation about you and glasses. And what it does, it disconnects us from that human, as me and Anthony were saying, that human being experience.
Right.
And I believe that is on a social level, gets in the way. Again, another example, a police officer and another person, I'm a suspect to that police officer first. I'm not Farron, a human being. I'm a suspect. And so they treat us as suspect. But we do it right back to the community that we are part of. You're a teacher, you're a doctor, you should know better because you're a doctor. You should know better because you're a police officer. Like, we label one another to where we disconnect ourselves so much that I don't even want to deal with my emotional experience no more. Like, just like Nike, just do it. And it hurts us. I truly believe it hurts us. And to have that experience that you're sharing for yourself, to now have to deal with the conversation of like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm a person.
Right.
And so how did you manage that for yourself before we move forward?
I can't even honestly tell you, because I just did whatever I needed to do at that time in order to keep moving forward and not get and not fall into despair.
Yeah. Thank you.
So yeah, I just kept moving forward and kept whatever dream or whatever I had going on in my head, in my forefront, and just kept moving, because at the end of the day, it's easy to fall down into, oh, woe is me. That's the easiest thing to do. And like I said, I didn't realize who I was. if someone was to tell me that there was racial disparity and there's this and that, I would never have that conversation. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is America. You do whatever you want. Stop talking. No. So, you know, it and being in the military really opened my eyes too, because I had no clue there.
Yeah.
You know, even there, they only deal with statistics in the Army. Let me just deal with that.
Yeah.
They only deal with statistics, and statistically, you're coming in the military at this age, you've never done anything with your life. And I'm looking at them like, you guys are so dumb. Like, who told you this kind of stuff? Where did this come from?
Let me ask you this. Where are your parents or your grandparents from, if I could ask that?
My grandmother is still alive, and she's from Texas. And my mom grew up in Los Angeles, and my grandmother, they actually grew up in the Jordan Downs, and my grandmother worked for LaKiss. So everyone was once my grandmother started working for LaKiss, she moved us out. She moved them out, and then I was born eventually, and then we all moved to Lancaster, Palmdale, and that was in the 70s. So of course, no one looked like us in the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, if you looked at my grandmother, you probably wouldn't know that she was Black until she told you. So
yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, you know, because when we have these kind of social conversations, I look at my own life. Like both my grandparents were children post-slavery, right? And so having their families, my dad's dad was more of the teach you how to be independent, so you depend on the white man, the system conversation. My mom's dad was more of the church background, and you're gonna create your own way, right? And so I believe that in our culture, we have these two different spectrums that we grew up in. And as you mentioned, some of the conversations from the past aren't impactful as they are for all of us, right? And so we acknowledge what happened, but we don't live from those conversations. And there's a level of freedom when you don't live from those topics and those conversations, right? So I appreciate you. Does that make sense at all?
Absolutely, because I definitely didn't live from the conversation of you're some poor Black child and you can't do nothing and you're dumb and you've only had a 5th grade education. Like, I didn't live from that conversation. Never did, and don't even to this day. I'm 56 now, and I still don't live from that conversation. But I definitely see that conversation, and some of it I can see in now that I'm older, and now that my third eye is open, I should say, you know, a whole nother. I can see how. Matter of fact, I'll share a story. I went to this place. It was a self-help place, and at the time, the person asked me, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And I said, "Well, I'm a truck driver, and either the trucks are made to where you can live inside of them."
Mm-hmm.
And she said out of her mouth, "Oh, that's just a story. You're just telling a story." And you know, of course, it was like telling a story. That I said, "Isn't that a lie? Like a lie? Telling a story is a lie, right?" Well, no. I'm just saying you're just talking. No, I'm not just talking. You can live inside of the truck. There's a bed. There is a microwave, a refrigerator. Like, there's living quarters inside of trucks. I'm not talking about a pickup truck. I'm talking about a 18-wheeler. Maybe that may make no. You don't know. And I was like, wow, okay. So of course I pulled up the picture and showed it and proved that. And she never even once like apologized. Like that was like I was hurt. Like it was just okay for me to just be some form of a liar that she was making me out to be. Yeah. And I asked her, I was like, you don't think you should apologize? Like, you don't think I'm affected behind you calling me a liar?
Right.
She never apologized, never felt, you know, at that point I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, for so many years, I've been just totally oblivious to, like, not even giving it any energy. And I still didn't really give it energy as much as I corrected it. Right. And then asked her, like, hey, don't you think you owe me an apology? You're calling me a liar and you don't even know me.
Right.
You know, so, and those types of conversations and things, they hurt. And they send people into despair.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I can't be anything else other than that. But when you start depending on what somebody else thinks about you is when you start getting into a problem. So when you don't depend on what someone else thinks about you, then you're good. Like I tell everybody, I'm 6 feet, just like DeAndre said. I don't know what you guys think. I don't care what you saying. If a boy can be a girl can be a boy, I'm 6 feet.
You identify as 6 feet now, huh? Okay.
Absolutely.
I want to touch on this despair, and I want to bring Anthony up real quick just to chime him in with this, because this is something I feel is important for the athletic experience as well. One of the things that when you said despair, right, and as far as our veteran community, this is a full veteran community talk show network. What I discovered about myself was when I got to the space of hope mixed with hopelessness, mixed with the diminished experience of myself. Like, dang, Farron, you messed up again. You made another bad decision again, right? And then you get to that level of disappointment in yourself, and then the despair.
Right.
The despair for me was like, why bother?
Right.
Why bother? Right. And then it comes out in another term of self-loathing. Like, I'm living in this. One day I'm excited and I'm happy about my life, and then one day I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I have this whole diminished, and people don't understand how getting to the point of despair is it could be almost a detrimental space of life.
And you don't get there right away. See, that's the thing. And you definitely have to have some intestinal fortitude in order to not get there. And you got to have good support. And you got to be grounded in God, like, or higher power, whatever you want to call them. Whatever you need to call them for you, you got to be grounded. You've got to be. And your support around you is very, very highly important. Highly important.
Anthony, from that athlete, you're a veteran as well, so I know you can relate, maybe better understand us. But when you see an athlete in that space, like, I knew I had mental toughness from basketball, and even but that anguish, that despair of suicide, like anxiety, I've never felt an anxiety like that. I never felt depression like that. How do you talk from that conversation with the athletes?
Well, first of all, I just, what you guys are saying is amazing. I love it. I'm totally on board with everything you guys are saying. It's stuff that needs to be spoken about. So I commend you guys for what we're doing. A couple of things that I heard, a good acronym, another acronym. You see, I like the acronyms. But for hope, right? People say, "Oh, I'm hoping." Well, in my opinion, hope stands for hollow opportunities presented everywhere. There's no faith behind it. And I think, like what you're just talking about, having that faith that things can work out and that you can believe in yourself and things of that nature. And when you were talking earlier also about, like, people saying things to you and this and that, right? I heard this. I forget where I heard it. I would love to give credit, but I don't know where. But someone said it like this. It's like, when someone offends you, right? Like, oh, I'm offended. That offends me. What do? You take offense, right? I take offense to that, right? Well, if someone made you a cake, right, and it was poison, and they gave you the cake, would you eat it? They said, "Oh, this is a cake for you. It's poison." Would you eat it? No, right? So it would go back to them. That would still be theirs, right? So why do we take the offense?
Yeah.
Right.
Just I'm not accepting it. Someone goes around in a diner or whatever, and they're trying to give coffee. Like, "Oh, do you want coffee?" "No, I'm okay. I don't like coffee. Thank you." She doesn't go, "Oh, well, why not? You should have the coffee. It's really good." No. If it's not for you, it's not for you.
Yeah.
So those are things, like, I work with the kids and I try to explain to them, like, listen, words are amazing, like language, right? It's amazing, but it can have the power or it can have the detriment to your life.
Yeah.
It's a matter of what you put into it. Like, your words can either make you or break you.
Yeah.
And we choose more times than not to let it break us, because that's what we're conditioned to do by the media, by the entertainers, by everyone. Is that, you walk past a newspaper stand and you see, it's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow. You don't pick up the paper We say storm of the century coming, or that war happened. You're picking up what's going on.
Right.
We're geared towards negativity, and that's where people like us we can step out into the world and show them that it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
People don't want to do it.
Thank you. DeAndre, man, I know you're a veteran as well. Unmute yourself, man. What do you want to speak on that part, man?
Well, when the part I enjoy the most is like just seeing your beautiful faces up there, knowing that we have all overcome that assessment of the unkeen heart. And my girl always say, I have a soft spot. I'm very emotional. I don't like no one to downgrade me because I don't try to downgrade people. But sometimes my mindset gets the best of me, and I come off real harsh and real great. And that comes from a mental toughness where I grew up.
Right.
I grew up with a family of hustlers, pimps, go-getters, hardcore, but I never did none of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I grew up in that kind of environment, but never got a chance to say to myself, what did the military do for me? My uncle's all special op guys. My uncle was CIA. I never knew about it. And then I had to try to follow up all that. My brother's athletes and my sister. And like, here you are, the youngest kid of 13 kids. You had to be a ball player. You had to do something, or you was like the no good totem pole. And that was a lot of pressure on me as a child.
Yeah.
It was mentally just. I grew up with mentally. Like you remember, you talk about you was 5 years old with your dad. You with your father.
Yeah.
I went through my whole life with my dad. He never came to my basketball game. He never came to my baseball game. But I was a hell of a ball player. In basketball, I averaged 22 points a game. Baseball, 302 lifetime average. And at the pro circuit, I never came to my games. Yeah. So I thought about, dang, I didn't get all this, and no one even thanked me for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I felt like whatever. But then I met this little 6'1" woman over on the upper right thing who's 6'1", and she gave me that mental toughness to say, you can do whatever your mindset is. If you never had a woman love you the way you want to be loved, my mama said, yeah, but she'd have been here, she said the same thing. Yeah. I like a woman who's 6 foot tall, who thinks she's 7'3" now, but she's 6 feet. So I had to look up to that concept. But military,
I'm blown away because of again, her mindset. Her mindset is not your average mindset, right? Because a lot of people in this world are affected, as Anthony was saying, we get affected by conversations and we take it on. Like if I wear a size 12, you can't sell me a 10. Like I'm not buying it. Like it don't fit me. You know?
Exactly.
But why do we take that on?
Yeah, Anthony, Anthony, you coach, so you know at a coaching level. I took a baseball team one year, a bunch of little girls baseball team. These little girls are like the bad news bears of baseball, softball, right? And no one wanted to mess with them. I was like, okay, why would they? They all got little attitudes and they think they all good. And it was like, I had to deal with that. Yeah. I said, how am I gonna take a little 12 little girls who just scream and holler and just yeah. And you had to go down to that mental level. It's okay, what makes her tick? What makes the pitcher tick? The first baseman, the outfielder. You had to come to that level and show them it's okay to be afraid.
Yes.
It's okay.
Thank you.
It's all okay. Right. And I tell my sons that. It just never works.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
drop y'all back in the room. I'm gonna finish up with her because I'm gonna bring y'all back because we're gonna get into another topic while she's here. And I believe for me it's definitely a mental aspect connected to this financial conversation. So we're gonna finish up with her and I'll bring you right back. All right. Again, just to touch on your military experience, like what had you pick the army to join? Like what was that? Like what was going on in life that you was like, I'm joining the army today? Like what was going on?
So I always wanted to go in the military. I was supposed to go on that buddy pass thing when I was like 17. We were supposed to do it when we were 18. And I could never make it. Me and another friend, her name was Michelle Green. She ultimately did end up going into the military. And every time that I would get ready to go, it was always wartime. Something always broke out. I was like, man. So war broke out again. That was what was that? 9/11.
Oh yeah.
9/11 happened, and I said, I don't care I'm 30 something years old. I'm going. This is the last chance that I'll ever get. If I don't go, I'm never gonna go. And I went. It was after that, but I went. Wow. I did. And and I got there and they said, "You are getting out of here." You
You were still at the age level to get in though.
I was, but my drill sergeant was not happening, was not liking me. He could not believe, that I was 30 something years old coming in the military, and how dare I, he said.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't care what you think, I'm gonna be here. And I was always a mouthy person, so always been a mouthy person, always been able to speak up for my own self. So, after about 2 days of being quiet, I was like, look, I don't know who you think I am, but
I'm 6'1", man. You don't know who you're talking to?
Exactly. So, he let me know how much power he actually had, because he had the power and I didn't know.
Yeah. So how much time did you spend in the military?
Not long. Not long. No, not long.
How was that transition out?
Difficult, but not. I went on and went to and started driving a truck. I kept it right on pushing.
Kept it right on pushing.
Kept right on pushing. It was, at first I was, disappointed, a little sad, and I was like, I waited this long. I had a plan. I was going in the military. I was saving $1,000 a month. For 60 months, I'm gonna come out with $60,000, and then the military is gonna give me $125. I was gonna have $185,000, and I was gonna tackle the world. Right. And they told me, "Get out! You're not staying here."
All right, this is Trench Talk Edition, Farron Dozier Show. We're gonna play some PSAs and come back and get into this last bit of this conversation, which is for me. I was sharing with her last night that, my dad talked about save your money for a rainy day. And how that affected me from 8 years old to in my 50s, 40 something years of what that financial mindset that I developed from that, whatever a rainy day was supposed to be. I love my dad. God rest his soul. He lived from a lot of cliches. He had a lot of cliches. And when I got to this point where I'm at, at 40 years old, back then, I was like, man, you left out the whole story. You left out the main parts of the cliche. Like wait a minute. No, you left out the main ingredients.
I think that's how they raised all of us, because my grandmother always said, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Right. What does that? But you tell it to a child, what does that mean?
I got it. I got it. Even as a child, I got it. I got to stand for something. You got to stand. But I was on the picket line with her when she was sick.
All right, I'm going to bring you right back. This is the Farron Dozier Show, Trench Talk Edition. Please don't go nowhere. Zetovia salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. 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 Tune in to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Brought to you by Sports Collective TV, Sports Collective Radio, and Sports Collective Media. We got the Heme Factor, we got In the Zone, and we got Fourth Down and the 20-second Timeout Sports segment. All for you right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website with my guest hosts Robert Lamar and Coach Will. Catch us on Sports Collective Media on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure you watch us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website. Music, talk, sports, and so much more. Farron Dozier Show.
I just wanna breathe this name. My God. little brother, my lovely mother tried to make it easy, but we was some knuckles though. We used to let them knuckles throw. We used to let them chuckles go when we thought about the places we would go. Yeah, lights off. Yeah, no, really. Lights off. Yeah, no money. Lights off. Under the candlelight.
All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show, Trench Talk Edition on MB Radio. Again, shouts out to MB Radio, Military Broadcast Radio Network, for allowing us to have our Trench Talk show here. Big Dre, we were at the same station, LA Talk Live. I think I went to LA Talk Live after, so I did Blog Talk first at home on a laptop with a phone line, drinking cranberry and vodka because I was so nervous because that was my first talk show. I was really in a dark space, and again with my relationship to sports, huge sports fan. You know, we showed up to Fridays like it was Cheers. Our drinks was ready, the food was ordered, like we come to sit down and have a blast. But then during that transition out of the service, I just lost interest in a lot of things, and sports was one. And so I did a blog talk show back in 2009, 2010 that kind of led me into living into that sports show each week. So the diminished of having a desire to want to take my life diminished a lot because I had that podcast, that talk show, that blog talk show. And then I was invited to LA Talk Live to do a sickle cell-a-thon with my friend Krishan. She passed away a few years ago, and she had a friend who had a show at LA Talk Live. So in 2012, I walk into LA Talk Live and I see this beautiful office. There's brick wall on one side, a red wall on the other side, and we're doing this interview. And I'm sitting there like, how can I have my talk show here? And lo and behold, that was in August and September. We did a sickle cell-a-thon. In January of 2013, I called out to the station owner and was like, hey, I'm interested. And in March, I had my first talk show. Back then, they had cameras. They had Live 365. So we played music. We had cameras and microphones. Today, they call it podcasting. Back then, it was internet radio. I don't know where podcasting term came from, but DeAndre, myself, and some other of us, we feel like grandfathers today in this podcasting because we've been around doing it for so long, self-taught as well. But just to be able to have these conversations, for me, this is my getaway. This is my space where I get to, it developed as a passion, if I could put it to you that way. So I thank y'all for listening. FarronD.com if you have any questions or you want to know more about what I'm up to in life. FarronD.com. We're going to get back to LaKiss because there's a conversation that I want to have with her. So this whole financial piece, right? And you know, one of my biggest fears, I would say, living into the future of uncertainty, was as an E7 with 20 plus years. I mean, I made making good money. Like I didn't know I was making some really I think I was like $95,000 a year, like at that E7 pay. And then to discover that I'm going to be removed out of the service, not by choice, the panic of my finances, like all of that. So I'm learning even today that as we talk about investments and buying property, even like my dad told me years ago in my 20s, buy a piece of property, like buy a parking lot, and you just never know, just to hold on by. And I'm like, I'm not interested, man. I ain't got time for that. And I'm traveling and moving. And so now I understood what my dad, you know, I bought my house 16 years ago, but now I understood what he was talking about, having a piece of property. But it takes something in our environment to break free from, if I could language it that way, of what my relationship to money is. And I know we want to have a financial conversation. We might have to have you come back to finish it, but how do you address that when people are looking to buy property or invest? And now you got crypto, and do I trust crypto? Do I trust you who talking to you? How much money you gonna make and offer me? And like all these worries and concerns. We look at athletes who make millions of dollars and then come out broke at the end of their career because they have this relationship to money. Mine was a rainy day. And I didn't experience a rainy day until 40-something years later. It's like, but I can look back and see my quality of life suffered though.
You had a rainy day. You just didn't know what type of rainy day it was.
So before we get into that financial piece, what is like? How do you speak to that part? Because there's a lot of great things that's in the world that we can apply our money to and invest and take risk and people go to Vegas all day long and put everything on black.
I mean, I'm always been on black, so that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, I like red, so
red, go with your red, but I'm definitely a black person.
Yeah.
I've always been on black, but that's neither here nor there. You know, a lot of it has to do with your surroundings, you know, your network. What type of network are you in? Who are you talking to? What are you dealing with? You know, it just so happened that I hate the word stepfather, but so I call godfather. He picked up he was into this real estate thing and he wanted to buy stuff, and he was listening to Carlton Sheets, no money down, no credit. And I happened to pick it up, and I was like 15 years old, 14 years old. So by me picking that up, and by me living in Lancaster, which is predominantly, you know, red city.
There you go.
I was having conversations with parents, but because I was listening to Carlton Sheets, I was able to have conversation with parents.
Got you.
So I had a conversation with a father who was a construction worker. He was a contractor. He owned a construction company. And actually, I had two friends, and both of them were really good friends of mine. Well, as kids, we were good friends, because you can't tell that we're good friends now. But anyway, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Growing up, he was a contractor, and then I had another friend whose father was a contractor, and they lived on the hill in Palmdale, overlooking the city. So you know, two different kinds of contractors, you can tell, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was always in conversations about money. Have your own clothing line. You know, at that time, Jordache was a hot commodity, and I was like, I need to have my own clothing line because everybody's buying it. I was always having conversations about money, even as a young person. I was sitting with one of my friends, me, her, and her husband. We had dropped her daughter off at college, and her and I were talking about owning our own businesses, and we were like 19. We were in college, and we were at this program called Stay in School program. And we were working at the Department of Defense, and we were getting paid top dollar, and we were only getting paid that because we were in college. You know, we were in the Stay in School program. So when we were talking with we were all sitting down, and he was like, you guys was having conversations about owning property and owning your own business at 19? We were like, yeah, we were.
Wow.
We were having those conversations. So it's definitely your surroundings and what you're exposed to.
Yeah.
See, if you're not exposed to nothing different, right? You can't heal a community if you're exposing it to nothing but drugs, alcohol, fighting. You know, it's never going to heal.
Yeah.
It has to be exposed. It has to be exposed to something else. You can make just as much money as a drug dealer doing real estate. Like you have to understand that. And those types of conversations are not had.
Yeah. Let me bring up Anthony. You know, Anthony, your transition out of the service, your mindset around finances, you talked about growing up in this middle, you know, range of life. The relationship to money as a soldier, you know, we think we get paid a lot of money, but you talk about 24-hour paycheck, you making about $1, you make about $1 an hour.
Right.
For 24 hours, you know, it's like, okay, well, that really ain't no money because, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, Anthony, again, we talk about athletes, the mental health, mental toughness, financial, always a financial talk with sports. You know, do you ever hear that conversation in your world, or does that ever come up with those athletes? I'm in this to make money. I mean, of course, I'm trying to get to the NBA or that next level.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely do hear that. And that's so funny, LaKiss, that you mentioned Carlton Sheets. I remember I actually bought that program. I was like, oh, my God. I think that one and the Robert Allen one, too. But never followed through with them. But yeah, I mean, you
I
definitely
did.
see it.
I
And
did.
what
It works.
it
It
works.
works. It works. Yeah. It took me 9 years to understand the concept, but
Right.
on that 9th year, standing in the right room with the right person, I was able to ask for what I wanted, and I got it.
Oh,
It
wow.
works.
I love that. I love hearing that.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. But for me, it was funny too, because when I left the military, I actually became a stockbroker right out of the military. And if you've ever seen the movie Boiler Room, I don't know if you've ever seen that with Vin Diesel and Giovanni
Yeah.
Ribisi.
Yes.
I'm not joking about this. I would not be surprised if that movie was about me, because that was about my firm, and I'm dead serious when I tell you this.
I
It
believe
wasn't exit 53 off the LIE, it was exit 33. Right? That's number one in New York. But I would literally, the guys who used to own Stratton Oakmont, two of the partners were former partners of Stratton Oakmont, were of my firm. And my firm, it was crazy. One day I was there for a bunch of months, and I was doing well, and I got my Series 7, 63. It was awesome. And then I see a bunch of guys walking around in suits. I'm like, what's going on here? It's like, oh, the FBI is looking through here. I'm like, oh, okay. So this was on a Friday. I said, all right, fellas, I'll see you Monday. Never went back. And about 3 months later, they got raided and everything happened. So it was crazy. But having that knowledge of what that industry was about, I hear a lot of these kids, a lot of them they want to make the quick money. They see what's out there. They see these players that are getting, now, what Jimmy Butler just signed for 2 years for $121 million, like $60 million to dribble a basketball, not all the time. Like, it's
Not all
just
the time.
mind blowing. And then you have the television series, like the Keeping Up with Kardashians and all these reality shows where's the talent? There's no talent. It's just people love the drama.
The drama.
And people want to take the shortcut. But if you take the shortcut, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey getting there.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of these kids don't realize. Like, it's not about the wins and losses. Like, especially I coach the youth. Like, my son is 11, and I coach 5th grade boys, right? And like some of the coaches, they get really angry. And I'm like, give me, like you talking about before, give me all the kids that aren't that great. I have kids on my team that I've had for 3 or 4 years now that aren't the best players, but they're getting better. But it's about developing them as people. I say I have a slogan I use: the better the person, the better the player.
Yeah.
99% of these kids are not making it to the next level.
Yeah.
So what skills are you learning in sports that you can carry over to your life? And
Thank
that's
you, Anthony.
teamwork, all that kind of stuff.
So,
Absolutely.
LaKiss, there's different aspects of this financial piece. Touch on a little bit of each one, so for the listeners to kind of get a sense of what you're up to. You got the real estate, the crypto.
I got real estate, crypto. So I'm doing crypto in a backdoor market. The platform that we're on is based in crypto, but it's actually it's actually an agreement between the insurance companies, crypto, and the platform. So I don't really know how to explain that one as well as you need $100 and you take $100 in 36 months, you'll have 30,000. So it's an inexpensive way to actually invest in crypto, and it's a backdoor way. So so I'm not, and I do have some crypto myself, but I'd kind of do that and I'd pull off whatever I make. I pull it off. Whatever I've got enough in there, I just pull it off.
I guess so. My question to you around the crypto, we ain't got to get that, the details of the platform. But again, that takes a level of confidence, a level of something that you felt comfortable with the conversation about investing in that, to take your money and put it in that system to let it ride. Like that's not an average person. They doing that. So
what
was it for you?
Like I said, I eat $100, so $100. I mean, at some point you just
DeAndre down there saying something. He said she do.
So I mean,
it's eat 100.
Yeah, I eat $100. So I mean, by it being it was a small investment, a good return. And it just took a little bit of time. That's why it was easier for me. It was easy for me to get in.
Yeah.
That was real simple. at the end of the day, I also believe in investing. Like investing is the way that everyone has made money, and real estate is every millionaire has been made in real estate.
Okay.
Trump,
So let's talk about that before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at, do I want to buy another piece of property?
Yes, you do.
I know, but I'm giving my scenario. Because I'm still dealing with what my environment taught me about property, right, and all that. So do I want to
that rainy day?
That rainy day, right? So do I want to take that equity and buy another piece of property? Do I want to take my house that I don't trust nobody else to live in because they ain't gonna treat it how I treat it and let somebody else move in here and rent it from me? Well, I can go and spread. Like, how do you? There's a lot of stuff I got to get through to want to even buy another piece of property for me.
Well, so first of all, you've already made your first mistake. You bought a house, so that was your first mistake. So
okay.
So now we're going to correct your first mistake.
Okay, let's correct it. I'm ready to correct it.
Okay, so so to correct your first mistake, we're gonna build you a fourplex.
Okay.
So, and the reason why we're gonna build you a fourplex is because your roof, your plumbing, and your electrical is gonna be good for 20 years, no matter what's going on, right?
Okay.
So with a fourplex, you'll have a 401k plan in bricks and mortar.
Okay.
And by it being now you can move, we're gonna say you're gonna move out of your house and you're gonna live in this fourplex. So it's gonna be considered your primary dwelling. Now, I said we're gonna say you're moving out. Listen to my word.
I heard you. Language is important. I'm tracking.
Because every 3 years in California, you can become a new homeowner as long as it's your primary place to live.
Anthony, such madness.
I've been missing out on this.
Such madness.
Yes.
Such madness.
We just never know. They don't tell us.
So now that we've established that you're going to build a fourplex and we've established why you're going to build a fourplex, because technically I would say pull your money out of your house and go get you 50 units minimum and build that from the ground up.
Right.
Seeing how you already own a home.
Right.
So it seems like you're a little bit more reluctant, kind of, standoffish. So we do 4 units and it's considered a single family home. You only need 3.5% down. I'm going to build it for you. Yeah. And by
Miss Pugh.
Wait 1 second. And by you being an actual veteran, you don't even need 3.5. You can go in with 0 down. See?
And
you see Anthony.
And tell them about the taxes on the property. The taxes you own the land. How much you pay the taxes?
No. No. That's so what he's speaking of is you're only going to be taxed at 15% opposed to taxed at 38%. Because it's going to be a passive income. It's not income that you're physically working for.
So what you're telling me is I can
and
do.
I'm not even finished. You're gonna
Okay.
rent them. You're gonna rent your 3 out on Section 8. You're gonna Airbnb the other one. The 3 that you rent out, your money's gonna be guaranteed as long as they're 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. You can get anywhere from $3,800 to $4,100 a month. Each unit.
Anthony, I was like me. Anthony look like. Yeah.
I know. See, the golden rule in radio that there's not supposed to be any dead air, right? but I needed the dead air to just be there so I could feel the quietness. I needed to hear that quietness.
So that's $12,000 a month, and that way you can live almost free in California.
And so what is the big I mean, it's easy to say that if you don't know, you don't know, you don't know, you don't know. I get that.
When you say it's easy to say that, I'm not just saying that. I
No,
know
I'm saying
that.
about the don't. I'm saying about the don't know. A lot of people don't know.
Yeah,
that
don't know.
This is possible that you can actually, again, man, and as Anthony was saying earlier, it's like you see so much stuff on TV, you see so much drama, you see so much this and that. It's like the level of despair. You're like, why bother? Like, why even take?
Well,
the
that's why you cannot subscribe to it. I have never subscribed to it. I've never subscribed to hurting no one, talking about no one. I've never, as a young girl, I didn't even subscribe to it. You couldn't call me and start gossiping about, I don't care, I don't want to hear it. If it ain't about no money, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty much that person even to this day. If it's not about money, I don't want to talk about it.
Wow.
My only new conversation is despair. Because when despair sets in, there's a certain level of poverty that's there as well already. So in order to pull you out of that, we have to talk about mental health, right? But you gotta. I remember telling someone, you gotta get a new dream. He said, I wanted to be Muhammad Ali, and I wanted to be this. I said, get a new dream, get a new one. They're available. They're ready and available. Look around, find you something. It doesn't matter what it is. Find a new dream. I remember when I was cutting hair and I was like 26. I said, yeah, I'm gonna start building houses when I'm like 40. And everybody was looking at me like, why are you planning till you're 40? I said, because I gotta have something to do when I get 40.
You know what, Anthony? Before we get out of here, man, what do you tell a parent or an athlete when you're like, you know what, you just need to go do something else, man? Like this is not for you.
Well, that's tough. Like when they're younger, it's a different story because they always have the high. But when they get to the level, of an older kid, it's like, all right, you have to kind of transition to not everyone makes it. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean that there's not a position for you in the sports world.
Thank you.
There's so much more. There's all the behind the scenes stuff. There's trainers, there's coaches, there's media, there's all these different aspects that you can do. So it's not the easiest conversation because the ego kicks in and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, most of these kids, they get it. Like they're not going to make it. So but that's where the training when they're young comes into play, where they're developing their minds the right way, their bodies the right way. So that way, when they do transition, they've taken things away from the court.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Before we get out of here,
okay. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to say that one thing. That's with
ahead.
life. What he's saying is life. And that's how people get into despair because they don't know how to transition from what they thought was going to happen. You have to be able to transition from what you thought to what's actually happening and make something new happen. On that, I'll drop the mic.
Well, before you drop it, I'm gonna pick it up because again, our education is that transition. Also, with change is an emotional fracture on the brain if you're not prepared for that transition. And so the transition that we're talking about is no different than you taking your kindergarten child to kindergarten and you leave him at school. And now he's coming from home to this classroom. That crying is a for real cry.
Right.
Because of that transition, that change. That transition from elementary to middle school is also a transition because you're going from a small 30-room class, single class, to now 5 teachers and 1,000 students. If you don't find yourself in that transition, it's daily, a wrap for that child. So when you said life, we gotta have these talks because transition and change can be emotional and it can be a lifelong wound dealing with life. And again, like you were saying, making a decision, making like, oh no, I got proof and evidence and feelings and emotions connected to it. So I'm stuck.
Well, that's why my coding line talks about that. Elemental life. It's like 5 elements. 4 JJ45 means 4 means earth, and 5 mean the 5 elements. First element is being birthed. We're born into sin. 2, 3, and 4 are what you make a life, and 5th is death. And whatever the word is after that is what it is, according to our Bible. So if you're gonna live your life from 2nd, 3rd, and 4th gear, or just call it despair, when you die, you're going to hell.
That's self-loathing.
Yeah, it's lonely. But you live it from 2, 3, 4 to helping people, loving what you do, and just enjoying life. And what you pass on, that's everlasting for you.
Yeah.
That's why I call it elemental life. That's what it is. Because I died at birth, so I know what it is to be there and say, hey, you're not that person anymore. So get out that rut. Tell the athletes you ain't that good. Try something different. You want to be? You got a good education? Stick to it. You get a degree. Because if you can't shoot a jump shot or a layup right, it's time to roll. It's time to go.
Get you some property and manage your property and making $12,000 a month. Back to you in the studios. I'm out of here. Anthony, thank you, man. I appreciate your time today, my guy, man.
Absolutely.
You've been nothing but a pleasure from the moment we talked on the phone, man. So
thank you, man.
Thank you guys so much. It's been wonderful.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, I thought I was the man when I bought my house with no money down. I got money at closing with the VA loan.
Right.
For real, right? For real. We think that's it.
And then Anthony, now you're gonna go home. You're gonna cut TV all night and say, darn it. Those darn Knicks, I swear. The Knicks are going. It was going to happen. It happens.
Big Dre.
Anthony Davis. Yes,
Big
sir.
Dre, man, thank you, man. It's been a blessing to reconnect with you, man.
Yes,
me
sir.
and Big Dre shared the same platform before with the talk shows, connected with lupus awareness and sickle cell trait, man.
Yes.
So I'm glad that we came full circle, bro, and to be in this place again, an opportunity. So I probably wasn't, like I said, I probably wasn't ready back then.
You look out for the new show. Look out for the new boxing show.
Bags the canvas. Bags the canvas.
Tell them, say it again.
That's bags the canvas.
Canvas.
Woo! That mental toughness in boxing is something else.
They have no idea. They have no idea what's coming.
You need mental toughness in life. Let's
Thank
be
you.
clear.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And that's where we
Yes,
take
sir.
it. As y'all listeners hear this is a life conversation. So we
And let them know coming April. Let them know April. Hammer and Nails. We're gonna be broadcasting live. Hammer and Nails, a new all male cave for skin care, shaving, nails, toes getting done, all that for men.
I don't have no hair, but we gonna take care of the facials.
Facials, all that. We can't wait, man. We're doing it live in Santa Monica.
LaKiss, tell them how they can find you if you want to give out some socials or a website.
You can find me at Kiss Platinum Development.com.
Okay.
You can also give me a call at 323-570-8425. That's 323-570-8425. I'm also on Instagram as Kiss Platinum.
I'll make sure I tag all that. I'll make sure I tag everybody in the socials.
Yeah, and I'm definitely I'm on Facebook as well under LaKiss Pugh.
Okay.
And I got a few projects, and I'm looking for some investors. I got a 240 apartment building where it's going to be built from the ground up. So we're still in the phases of putting it together, how we're going to do it. The lady just called me 3 times since I've been on here. So I'm
that's the vibration going on. All right, I heard the vibration of the phone going on.
Oh yeah.
All right, Anthony, website, anything you want to drop real quick before we get out of here?
Yes, website's anthonymdrago.com. All my social media is the same, at Anthony M. Drago. And it's been a pleasure for all you guys, man. It's been great. It's been very knowledgeable and a lot of new ideas.
No doubt. Thank you so much. And I'm at Farron Dozier on all platforms. You can find me over there. And again, thank you for listening in. Shouts out to MB Radio for this opportunity to have a talk show here on their platform. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Next Wednesday, we'll see what's going on. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us, giving our veterans a voice.